It was distinctly hard for Lady Barbara, who came of good fighting stock and was one of the bravest women of her generation, that her son should be so undisguisedly a coward. Whatever good qualities Lester Slagby may have possessed, and he was in some respects charming, courage could certainly never be imputed to him. As a child, he had suffered from timidity, as a boy from unreasoning fears. He was frankly afraid of animals, nervous with firearms, and never crossed the channel without mentally comparing the numerical proportion of lifebelts to passengers. On horseback, he seemed to require as many hands as the Hindu god, at least 4 for clutching the reins, and 2 more for patting the horse soothingly on the neck. Lady Barbara no longer pretended not to see her son's prevailing weakness. With her usual courage, she faced the knowledge of it squarely, and, mother-like, loved him none the less. Continental travel, anywhere away from the great tourist attractions, was a favorite hobby with Lady Barbara, and Lester joined her as often as possible. Eastertide this year brought her on a train that took her to one of the small princedoms in a remote part of Central Europe. A long-standing acquaintance with the reigning family made her a personage of due importance in the eyes of her old friend the burgomaster, and she was anxiously consulted by that worthy man on the momentous occasion when the king made known his intention of coming in person to open a sanatorium outside the town. All the usual items in a program of welcome, some of them commonplace, others quaint and charming, had been arranged for, but the burgomaster hoped that the resourceful English lady might have something new and tasteful to suggest in the way of a loyal greeting. The king was known to the outside world as an old-fashioned reactionary, combating modern progress with a wooden sword. To his own people, however, he was known as a kindly old gentleman with a certain endearing stateliness. Lady Barbara discussed the matter of a loyal greeting with Lester and 1 or 2 acquaintances in her little hotel, but ideas were difficult to come by. Announcements were made throughout the princedom of the king's coming visit, and all manner of townspeople looked forward to the celebration. While taking a stroll along the perimeter of the princedom, Lady Barbara and Lester encountered some of the more underprivileged townspeople. They were approached by a rather drawn-faced lady to whom the Englishwoman had spoken once or twice, and whom she had set down in her mind as probably a southern Slav. "Fine lady, might I suggest something for the reception fest?" she went on to ask the Englishwoman with a certain shy eagerness. "Our little child here, our baby. We will dress him in a little white coat with small wings as an Easter angel, and he will carry large, finely decorated Easter egg embellished with beautiful flowers, and inside shall be a basket of plover eggs of which the king is so fond, and he shall give it to his highness as Easter offering. It is so pretty an idea. We have seen it done once in Styria." Lady Barbara looked dubiously at the proposed Easter angel, a fair, wooden-faced child of about 4 years old. She had noticed it the day before in the hotel, and wondered how such a fair-headed child could belong to such a dark-visaged couple such as the woman and her husband, who keenly observed the conversation from the side. Probably, she thought, an adopted baby, especially as the couple were not young. "And of course, you, madam, will escort my little child up to the king, but he will be quite good and do as he is told." The small child and Lady Barbara seemed equally unenthusiastic about the pretty idea. Lester was openly discouraging, but when the burgomaster heard of it, he was enchanted. The combination of sentiment and plover's eggs appealed strongly to his Teutonic mind. On the eventful day, the Easter angel, really quite prettily and quaintly dressed, was a center of kindly interest to the gala crowd marshaled to receive His Highness. The mother was unobtrusive and less fussy than most parents would have been under the circumstances, merely stipulating that she should place the Easter egg herself in the arms that had been carefully schooled how to hold the precious burden. Then Lady Barbara moved forward, the child marching stolidly and with a grim determination at her side. It had been promised cakes and sweeties galore if it gave the egg well and truly to the kind old king who was waiting to receive it. As they approached nearer to the king, Lady Barbara stood discreetly aside, and the stolid-faced infant walked forward alone with a staggering but steadfast gait. As the parade marched on, Lester turned to scan the crowd for the beaming faces of the happy parents. But what does he see but the child's mother, hooded with her back to the crowd and stealthily walking away? And on a side road, the child's Turkish father entering a caravan with every appearance of furtive haste. The sharpened instinct of cowardice lit up the situation to Lester in one swift flash. The blood roared and surged to his head as though thousands of floodgates had been opened in his veins and arteries, and his brain was the common sluice into which all the torrents met. He saw nothing but a blur around him. Then the blood ebbed away in quick waves till his very heart seemed drained and empty, and he stood, nervously, helplessly, dumbly watching the child bearing its accursed burden with slow, relentless steps, nearer and nearer to the group that waited sheep-like to receive him. And as the fugitives made their escape, Lester found himself running faster than any of those present had ever seen a man run, and he was not running away. For that stray fraction of his life, some unwanted impulse beset him, some hint of the stock he came from, and he ran unflinchingly towards the danger. He stooped and clutched at the Easter egg as one tries to scoop up the ball in rugby football. What he meant to do with it he had not considered. The thing was to get it. But the child had been promised cakes and sweets if it safely gave the egg into the hands of the kindly old king. It uttered no scream, but held to its charge with limpet grip. Lester tugged savagely at the tightly clasped egg, and angry cries rose from the scandalized onlookers. A questioning, threatening ring formed around him, then shrank back in recoil as he shrieked out one hideous word. Lady Barbara heard the word and saw the crowd race away like scattered sheep, saw the king forcibly hustled away by his attendants, and they screamed and screamed. Everyone screamed. Even death itself screamed as it saw Lester lying prone in an agony of overmastering terror, his spasm of daring shattered by the child's unexpected resistance, still clutching at the egg. Lady Barbara dimly was conscious of striving to balance the abject shame she had felt of Lester and this one compelling act of courage which had flung him grandly and madly on to the point of danger. It was only for the fraction of a minute that she stood watching the two entangled figures, the infant with its woodenly obstinate face and body tense with dogged resistance, and the boy, limp and already nearly dead with a terror that almost stifled his screams. And over them the long gala streamers flapping gaily in the sunshine. She never forgot the scene, but then it was the last she ever saw. Lady Barbara carries her scarred face with its sightless eyes as bravely as ever in the world, but at Eastertide her friends are careful to keep from her ears any mention of the children's Easter symbol.